G'day everyone, in this video I'm going to quickly explain how the updated progressive anti-recoil mod works. You'll find this progressive anti-recoil mod in a lot of recent and future Taylordrift scripts. I have made some videos on this in the past, but because there's been some updates to progressive anti-recoil, I thought I'd make an updated video. Let's get into it. To give you a quick rundown of what progressive anti-recoil is, it's an anti-recoil mod that we can make change its strength over a selected period of time. This is useful for when you really want to dial in the recoil of a weapon. If you've played COD or pretty much any FPS game, you know that there's some weapons out there that when you start shooting them, the recoil can be quite strong. If you keep shooting them, the recoil does mellow out a little bit. For some weapons, it might be the opposite way around. Either way, progressive is perfect for these types of weapons, as we can make the anti-recoil strength change as the weapon's recoil strength changes as well. Previously, we had the options to choose our start and our end values. Now we have a start, a mid, and an end value. When you first look at all the settings in progressive anti-recoil, it can be quite confusing, but how it works is actually quite simple. Now, I'm a visual learner. For me to understand something, it's much easier for me to be shown how it works. I need to see it in action for it to make sense. If you're like that too, then keep watching, as I've got a couple of different things to show you that should clear up any confusion and make it a lot easier for you to find the right values. The first thing I'll show you is something that we all have access to, and that's the device monitor in Zen Studio. To access this, plug your Zen into your laptop or PC using the mini USB that goes into the right side of the Zen, and also have your controller plugged into the Zen like normal. Open up Zen Studio, click Tools up the top here, and then click Device Monitor. It will bring up something like this. What this does is monitor the signals being sent by the controller and the Zen. So as you can see here, while I'm moving the analog sticks around, you can see the numbers moving to show just how much I'm moving the sticks. It works the same for all the other buttons as well. To track the right stick movement like I'm about to show you, make sure you click this number 10 option in the output section, which should be RY. This is the up and down movement of the right stick on your controller, and that's going to show up along the bottom here, you're about to see. Now, I currently have the Taylordrift Sicario script on the Zen. I have no aim assist stuff on, just progressive anti-recoil. Now, I have the value set to vertical start 30, vertical mid 0, vertical end 30, and the vertical time is set to 9,900, which is 9.9 seconds. Now, make sure you're watching down the bottom here. Now, you'll see here that once I ADS and press the shoot trigger, the right stick is pulled down instantly because of our vertical start value, and then it goes down to 0 because our vertical mid value is 0, and then goes back up to our vertical end value of 30 until I let go of the trigger here. So once I let go, it goes back down to 0. So we go again, still holding ADS. I'm going to shoot, vertical start value of 30. That's applied for a few seconds, and then drops down to the vertical mid value of 0 for a few seconds, and then goes back up to the vertical end value of 30 until you let go of the trigger. And there you go. If I leave the values the exact same, but change the time from 9,900 down to 5,000, which is 5 seconds, you can see here it'll do the exact same thing as before, but in half the amount of time. So 30, 0, 30 until you let go of the trigger, and then it stops. So what's happening here when it's going up and back down, that's the Zen sending the signal to your console or PC that you're pulling down on the right stick to control the recoil. I change the values around this time, and I make it vertical start 10, vertical mid 20, and vertical end 30. And I'll put the time back up to 9,900, which again is 9.9 seconds. You'll see that once I aim and shoot, that start value of 10 is applied for a few seconds. It'll then jump up to the next value, which is the mid value of 20, and then it'll go up to 30, and it will stay there until you let go of the trigger. One more time, so ADS, once you start shooting, it pulls down to the value of 10, it holds there for a few seconds, changes to the mid value of 20 for a few seconds, and then again changes to that end value of 30 and stays there until you let go of the trigger. I think after seeing this, you should be starting to get the idea of how this all works. If you want to get a better idea, then just open Zen Studio, open up that device monitor like I showed you, play around with some of the progressive values, and just look at the device monitor, see what it does, see what it changes. You'll definitely start to get the idea, but I'm pretty sure, like I said, I'm pretty sure these examples are pretty clear. I hope they are anyway. Next, I want to show you some graphs that I made. They definitely aren't perfect or perfectly scaled by any means. All the values that you're going to see on the graphs are just examples, but I hope it gives you a much better understanding of how you can work out your own values. Okay, so the first graph is this one here. Like I said, not the best, but it hopefully gets the point across. So up the side here, we can see time holding the trigger. Along the bottom here, we've got the recoil strength. And then up the side here, we've got a little thing here just to indicate what the colors mean. So we can see here with this weapon, it's no weapon in particular, I just made it up, right? We can see here that as we start shooting, it has a medium recoil strength for a couple of seconds. Let's say it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has a medium recoil strength for a couple of seconds. the recoil strength then changes to a low recoil strength for the rest of the time that you're firing that weapon. This means you'll need to set up progressive anti-recoil to have a stronger anti-recoil at the start, and then change 2 seconds later to a weaker anti-recoil. So for an example, it might be vertical start of 30, vertical mid of 15, and vertical end of 15. And the time would be 2000 for 2 seconds. You'll see here that when I start to shoot, that the vertical start value is applied for 2 seconds, which is 30, and then it switches to the vertical mid value of 15, and it stays there because our vertical end value is also 15, and it will stay there until we let go of the trigger. And just as another example, aim, start shooting, it's applied for 2 seconds, the vertical start value of 30, and then switches to our vertical mid and end value of 15, and stays there. So 1, 2, and then it goes down. 1, 2, and then it goes down, and it'll stay there. So if we have recoil like this, but set up our anti-recoil to be like this, I'm sure you can see how this would be working. I have one more example to make sure this is as clear as possible. So with this weapon, as you can see, when you start shooting, it has a low recoil for the first couple of seconds, and then it switches to a medium recoil for another second or so, and then it goes to a high recoil for the rest of the time that you're shooting the weapon. So what you do is come to your progressive settings and maybe do something like vertical start 10, vertical mid 30, and vertical end 50. And set the time maybe around 5000 for 5 seconds. Use the device monitor if you want to see exactly when it's changing. Now, with these values, as you can see, when I start shooting, that start value of 10 is applied for a few seconds, and then switches to 30, the mid value, and then to 50, that final end value, and it will stay there until I let go of the trigger. So again, 10, and then switches to 30, and then switches to 50, which is the start, the mid, and the end value that we have set. If I keep those values the same, but increase the time from 5 seconds up to 9.9 seconds, you'll see it'll do the same thing, but it'll just take a bit longer. So aim and shoot. There's our start value. Couple of seconds, it'll switch over to the mid value. There we go. That's the 30. Couple more seconds, and then switches to the end value of 50, which is what we have set at the moment. Let go of the trigger, it all stops. I'm sure after seeing these examples, you're really starting to understand how this is working and how you can start to put it into practice. I'm going to quickly jump into a private lobby and give you an example with an actual weapon. Alright, so I'm just going to quickly go through and work out some anti-recoil values for the AMAX here. I prefer to do it in this private lobby, that way I don't have to worry about rats bothering me and plunder. At the moment, it's only Vanguard plunder at the moment too, so either way, I'm doing it here. So, just have a look. This is no anti-recoil at all. So we're going up and, slowly to the right, to the left a bit there. Honestly, you don't have to worry about the horizontal that much. Don't let the horizontal part, stress you out. It's not that big of a deal. Either way, so we go in, anti-recoil, we want progressive, standard, or rumble. That's up to you. I've got standard. Now, I've got the vertical start. I'm going to go with maybe 30, 20 and 20, and maybe about 4000. So there's no specific time for each weapon. Get a bit experimental with it. You've seen in the device monitor there how it changes, from each value depending on, the time that you have. So go back and watch that again if you're not sure, or jump into the device monitor yourself and have a look at a few different values just to test it out if you really want to get that into it. But either way, this is pretty simple. These values here are not going to be the exact same for every person that uses the AMAX. That's just not how it works. But this process that I'm using right now to find the values is the same process that everybody can use to find theirs. So let's back out. So that saves and test how that goes here. Okay, so it starts off pretty good, but then towards the middle and the end, it does go up a little bit. So let's go back in. Let's leave the start where it is. Because it goes up towards the middle and the end of the clip there, I'm going to try maybe 22 and 22. And I'll back out so that saves as well. We'll try that. There we go. Still goes up a little bit towards the end. So maybe you could leave the vertical start, leave the vertical mid, and put the vertical end maybe up by 1. It is also going to the right, so if you wanted to, you could maybe put the horizontal into the negative. I'm honestly not going to bother because you're not going to have issues hitting people with that, let's be honest. So just testing it out here. And there we go. It's quite simple, as you can see. We've gone from this to this, within a minute or two, or less than that for sure. But it's very quick. Once you do it a few times. That's the hard part. You need to, test it out on a few weapons, but once you get the hang of progressive, you will be able to work it out this quickly or even quicker. And there we go. So that's everything I wanted to go through for this video. By now, you should have a fairly decent understanding of how the progressive anti-recoil is working in these newer Taylordrift scripts. I understand I did only go through and explain the vertical. If you are using a Taylordrift script that does have the horizontal start, mid, and end instead of just a horizontal value, it works the exact same way as the vertical. So if you can't work that out, then I don't know what to tell you, sorry. But either way, I've shown you the device monitor, which everybody that has a Zen has access to, so you can go ahead, use that, test out a few things if you want to, get a much better idea of how progressive works or how anything else works really on the script. I've used my couple of graphs there as well. Like I said, I know they aren't, perfect, they're not the best, but hopefully for the visual learners like myself, hopefully that kind of helped you, understand a bit more what you need to do when it comes to working out your progressive values. Either way, I'm done talking. I wanted this video to be under 10 minutes and we're bloody pushing it, so I'm going to cut it there. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments. Cheers for watching, and I'll see you next time.